Hello for the fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time. Using two readings, the first and last. First is Job 7, 1 to 4, and verses 6 to 7. And then the Gospel Mark 1, 29 to 39. And I call this Life is a Drudgery. You ever felt that way? When was the last time you woke up and said, oh my God, well, nothing makes sense anymore. Life is a drudgery. Let's look at Job. Job woke up that morning in the story, and Job wound up, was a very successful married man with kids and money and friends. And it all went to pot. It all went away. Well, how did it go away? Well, one was he lost his wealth through losing all his cattle, and he had many. And he lost his children and wife, and he had those and the house fell in or something. And he lost all his wealth, and then he lost his health, not only his wealth. And what could be worse than that? We see that also in the gospel where Peter's mother-in-law lay in bed with fever. But life happens where sometimes it just doesn't seem to make sense. And woe is me, and I'm confused, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Life is terrible. Well, in Job's story, after losing all these things, his friends come and try to tell him, Job, well, the reason is because you disobeyed God or you sinned and you turned against God, and then all these evil effects are coming upon you. And Job examined his conscience, examined his life, and he didn't believe that was true. And they insisted the problem is that you sinned and you are being punished because of your sin. And Job never gave in and said that I did that, lied to himself, or he didn't feel like he's lying to God, and it's totally true. And they went through all of these shenanigans of trying to get him to admit that he sinned, and this is the reason why he is so miserable, and he ought to admit it, and then God will take care of things. And it wasn't true. He didn't sin. He was a just man. But it just happens. It just happens. It's mystery of evil. Why do evil things happen to good people? I've never understood that, and probably in this world, I never will totally understand that. I cannot understand how 25,000 people are being bombed and killed because of a war, and it had nothing to do with them as such. Why do evil things happen to good people? Well, the long part of it, or the end of the story or the book of Job is he never gives up on God, and he accepts that God is still God, but he didn't understand. And then it all comes back together again. And he becomes happy, content, successful, without denying the truth, without being talked into this by his friends. And it winds up, well, God will take care of things in due time. It's like Jesus coming to Peter's house, and his mother-in-law, Peter's mother-in-law, is with fever and sick and in misery. And then at the end of it all, she's cured. What's that got to do with Job, the mother-in-law, or me, or us? We experience that in life. And I think Jesus knows that. I think God knows that. And I think the key is Don't give up, but pick up your cross and follow. That's what happened to Jesus. Jesus was not sinful. Jesus was not the cause of his death. Other things like us and our sins were the cause of his death. And he didn't give up. And he continued to stay close to his Heavenly Father. And he wound up suffering, dying, and rising again. I'll bet that same thing happened to Peter's mother-in-law. She didn't cause it, their fever, but she dealt with it. But the message of Jesus is, I know all of those things. I know that life seems crazy and miserable and mixed up and meaningless. Another day, here we go again. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. In due time, there will be health in Simon's mother-in-law. In due time, there will be fulfillment and happiness in Job's life in that story. And that's the case, or that's the situation, in due time. And it might be the end of your time or the middle of your time, but if you stick with God, if you stick with Jesus and stick with trying to give yourself to God and to Jesus, it'll all work out. And if you really believe this and try to do this, you're going to be a happier person than some days when you wake up and say, life is a drudgery. How can I face it? Try. That's one of the message, or one of the main messages of the life of Jesus. And he's asking us to take up our cross and follow him, no matter what that cross may be. Not the other person's cross, but my cross. That's the hard one. My cross. You're right. It is the hard one. But it's the one that Jesus is telling you, take up your cross and follow me. Have a good day.